IBTS podcast. Here we are. My guest today, Scott Lewis.
Thank you.
Scott, thanks for coming, man. Scott is a second-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Wagner Fabiano. Also a member of Team Nova Union, as it says on his awesome T-shirt right there. There you go. I wonder who designed that thing. Scott, thanks for doing the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Scott's also one of my coaches. I trained under Scott for almost 2 years in Mississauga. And that was awesome. Scott's definitely the smash and pass and get into it kind of guy. But Scott, I want to talk about your jiu-jitsu beginnings. Let's talk about how you started, how you got your start.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu. Oh man, it wasn't very popular back then. I started around like 99, I guess 98, 99. Started around there, and there'd be like 3 guys in the class. I started doing Thai boxing with Joey, who owns Combat, Joey Del Las Reyes. So he owns Combat Arts in Mississauga. And there wasn't a Combat Arts back then. I started doing Thai boxing with him. And then he said, let's do groundwork. I started doing that. And I got addicted to it, like we were talking earlier. I said about the UFC.
Yeah, you said you didn't believe in
I didn't believe it. I saw jiu-jitsu and I was like, this stuff's fake. You know what I mean? It's not real. Like, how did that guy do that? Like, oh, come on, man, that's fixed. And you get all upset and you're just like, forget it. I'm not paying this money to watch this again, right? And that was when there was UFC 1 and 2 and stuff. So as time went on, I started to learn. As soon as I started doing it, I got addicted to it. I never did stand up again. Yep. I just went straight in and I trained with Claude Patrick. He went on the fight in the UFC. He was one of my coaches, and then Nova União kind of started with in Canada. Wagner Fabiano came from Brazil, and he was living in Montreal, and he worked in a grocery store and fighting. It was back then there was UCC, so there was that was UCC, and he just started it again actually. And so we drive down to Montreal, me and Claude, and stay in Philip Jelana's academy. He had an academy right on Sherbrooke there. And we'd stay there, like right on the main streets too. You know what I mean? Or no, it was on St. Catharines.
Oh yeah, St. Catharines Street. St. Catharines.
Yeah, it was right on the main street. So we'd stay there and train, and it was awesome, man. It was awesome. Alex was there from Burlington BJJ. Nice. He was like a little kid on a 10-speed bicycle. You know what I mean? So,
Alex Zahabi. Scott is referring to Alex Zahabi, who is part of the Zahabi Brotherhood, TriStar Gym and all that. Alex is my coach in Burlington at Burlington BJJ. So these guys all go back. They're a clan. Oh, yeah. They've all been going at it together.
No, it's good. And he has like a wealth of knowledge. You know what I mean? Like he has. Just from training with him back then, he was always really good. He was always one of the better guys in rooms, and his jiu-jitsu is very smart.
Yeah, I find it's coming from training with you and Daniel Setsos. You guys I love it because you guys were the reason why I started training in with Nova União, and because I remember I'd met Alex. I was in my karate days, and a friend of mine was training in Burlington, and he said, "Hey, the great Wendell Alexander's coming and doing a seminar," and I didn't even know you guys yet. And he said, "You got to come out to this." He's like, "Leave the karate at home for a day and come do this." And in our karate school, we were doing a jiu-jitsu, like we do a workshop once a month or whatever. Yeah. And I always kind of had an itch for it, and I was like, "This is really cool. This is interesting." At first, I completely hated it because it was like so much close quarters, and I wasn't used to that. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, it hit me, and I was like, "Oh man, this is super enjoyable for some strange reason." But yeah, that's how I met Alex. And then eventually, I was out in California training for a little while, and then when I came home, I found you guys, and you guys were that split the difference drive between the edge of Mississauga and Toronto and Burlington. And I said, I'm going to give these guys a shot. And I met you, and I met Daniel, and trained with you guys for 2 years. And yeah, it was the training, the teaching styles are different, definitely different. And but they're both fantastic in that, like, you guys have so much all you guys have so much different styles to offer and different ways of getting things done. It's super cool. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and Alex too, like he trained with Fabio Hollande, who's like the Kimura king. Okay. You know what I mean? And he's really good, right? So even some of his students are really good, and we've competed against some of his students when I was younger and stuff, and yeah, it was good. Back in the day, it was myself, Claude. There was a lot of different guys that were in the gym. Mark Bocek, a lot of these guys, Sam Zukala, Sam was, coaching a lot of people that fought in UFC. Claude, Mark have fought in UFC. So it was good training. Then you had Wagner too, right? At the time that was, working in a grocery store and then, fighting whoever in UCC, right? Just kind of hopping in and then doing what he had to do. It was crazy times, back then was a white belt. So now you don't have any black belt, or you have so many black belts around. Back then there was no black belts. Right. Like we'd have to drive from Mississauga to Montreal, right, to find a black belt. The only other one was Market Soares, I think, and he was out in Vancouver. So that's quite a far away. You know what I mean? Quite a distance.
What a difference between today. I consider myself a very lucky guy that I can have, you know, guys like you come on and chat and train with guys.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was crazy because, you know, you'd have like 6 or 7 guys in a room and your instructor was a blue belt. That was your instructor.
Wow.
You know, so I remember we were at Combat and Sam was friends with the guy, another Novo União guy, Mark Lehman, and he opened up Cobra Kai. Have you ever heard of Cobra Kai in Las Vegas and all that stuff?
Course,
so he opened that. And he was on The Ultimate Fighter, where he's one of the coaches for The Ultimate Fighter. And he was in Canada. I went out and did privates with him, and he was teaching for like 3 weeks at our school. So it was awesome, man. You know, Joey just started up Combat Arts. It was in the back of Gold's Gym. It was just kind of, you know what I mean, like just growing. So we're in there and we're training. There's this guy, another guy came in who was a black belt, a judo black belt. Mark was a brown belt. So remember, there was no brown belts around.
Right.
So when Lehman was in town, man, guys were like, oh, this guy's really good. And we're in Gold's Gym. So there's a whole bunch of muscle head guys working out, everything. So anyways, we're in the back in Gold's Gym, we're training, and this guy comes in. I don't know who he is, right? He's just a black belt, but he's a judo black belt. So he's rolling around, and Mark's teaching the class, and then it comes to sparring time, you know, at the end of class, and I go, do you want to spar? He goes, no, I'm going to just go with Mark. So he goes with Lehman, and Lehman's sick, man. This guy's really good, like no joke, right?
Yeah.
And he's tough too. Like he's not a guy that, you know what I mean, that you can kind of, he took his jiu-jitsu very serious, let me put it that way. If Mark's out there, hey Mark, how's it going? But anyways, he took his jiu-jitsu really serious. And so, you know, they roll, like not even 20 seconds, Mark taps him out. They roll again. And, you know, I'm sitting here supposedly rolling with another guy, but, you know, they're in my guard and we're like looking back. You know what I mean? If you see, you're watching 2 guys on the mat roll to a higher belt, you might be with another white belt. But
you just kind of stop. I've done it many times. I just kind of stop. Or maybe you're getting kind of half choked, but you're just paying more attention.
Exactly. You're watching what else is going on, right?
Totally.
So you're in the guy's guard and you're like looking, you know, watching these guys go. So Mark keeps tapping him. And the guy goes, you know, I'm just tired. I haven't been on the mat for a while.
Okay.
You know, it's not your technique. And that was where it hit him, right? He goes, it's not your technique. It's just that I'm tired. And Mark got all pissed off that he said that and goes, oh, not my technique. Okay, well, take a break and we'll start from standing because this guy's a judo black belt.
Yeah, okay.
So he goes, okay. So he goes over, has a drink of water. We're training. Mark goes, okay, everybody, you know, time out. Everyone clear the mats. We're like, clear the mats. He's like, let's go. Right? So him and this guy, who I found out later, it's kind of funny who this guy is, but they meet in the middle of the mat and Mark, he grabs him like a judo, right? Mark sits, boom, right into a triangle. Right into a triangle choke. And the guy starts tapping. Mark goes, no technique, eh? No technique, eh? Guy's tapping harder. He's like, no technique, eh? No technique. Mark finally lets him go. Claude's like trying to break it up, right? Mark lets him go from the triangle, up kicks him, goes, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? We're a white belt. We're like, you know what I mean? Like my mouth is open. Going,
that's front row tickets, man. You're like, what?
So later on, now this is the killer of the story. Later on, I see this guy, and he's a fucking professional wrestler. He does WWEs. Like his name is Anthony Corelli. He owns Battle Arts in Mississauga. I went there one time. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
I remember him because when I went there, he said to me, oh man, I remember you. You were there that time. He goes, yeah, that guy, I don't know what his problem was. Anthony didn't know what his problem was, but I guess because Anthony said you don't have any technique or it wasn't your technique, that set him off. That set Mark off, right? Because Mark's just a little bit, you know, touchy, I guess. But
fiery.
But you know what? When I went to Battle Arts in Mississauga, great school. And I saw when they were first setting up, I went in there before we even had Nova Mississauga. I went in there and I was just checking it out. And he remembered me from that time at the gym when this happened. And, you know, he was a totally cool guy, right? So, but it's just weird, you know what I mean? Like how you're doing jiu-jitsu as a white belt, you see this guy, and then he's all of a sudden on WWE or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Doing professional wrestling, right? He was the Italian, I don't know the guy's name, but anyways, he's the Italian guy in wrestling. But
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. They had a lot of stuff happen, you know? Back then you had like a lot of different personalities and it wasn't as the same as it is now. It's more regulated now.
Right.
Back then you'd have guys ripping off your t-shirts when you're doing no gi and like choking. You know what I mean? It was just like, you know, it was like crazy, right? It just, and then
the Wild West.
Yeah. And then
it
started to get more regulated and, you know, more tournaments were going on and we competed, you know, and started competing. And then Wagner moved from Montreal. He moved to Ontario, opened up Carmo. We all used to train up there. It was me, Maz, Dom, you know, tons of guys, Claude, you know what I mean? Mo, and you know Mo is, was one of my training partners from way back, right? Nice. So, you know what I mean? Joey and Kareem, he owned a place up in Barrie, you know, Crazy Kareem anyways. Yeah. So
I think it's interesting because I find that I find one word that really kind of exists in the jiu-jitsu world, and I really respect it a lot, and it's loyalty. Like I see a lot of like kind of dudes like a guy like Mo and stuff like that
It's funny you say that. It is loyalty. When you train with somebody, like for me anyways, you become protective of your teammates, right? So after Wagner moved from Montreal to Canada, Fabio Hollanda, who's the Kimura guy, man, he's a killer. He went and started teaching, in Montreal, and he became like the main guy in Montreal, another black belt, right? Which there wasn't any. So, his team was becoming very good. And I remember my training partner, Maz, really, this guy's tough, man, really tough. Doesn't train anymore, but he was so tough. So Maz fought one of his guys, another judo black belt, but he was a purple belt at the time. I was purple belt at the time. He fought a guy named Sharom. He trained under BTT, right? He used to train with Nova too a little bit, but he switched to BTT. Good guy too, but he ended up beating Maz. Maz was beating him for most of the fight. This is like one of those epic good fights. And then last time, Maz gassed out, and then Sharom tapped him, right? So they were having a tournament in Montreal, and I said, you know what? I want to go, and I'm going to fight Sharom. I'm going to get him back. You know what I mean? I'm going to go there and fight him. And the coolest thing is, like, Fabio knew I was there. Philip Jelena, who runs the school and was running the tournament, knew I was there. There's no reason for me to come from Toronto to there unless I want to fight the one guy, Sharom. And first fight, boom, we went. And I was working wrestling with Sean Jarris, who's one of my wrestling guys, Greco guy. So I was working wrestling with him, and I said, no way am I going to get taken down. It was no gi. I'm like, I'm just going to throw this guy in his head. I know he's got judo. And, went down to the ground. I ended up taking him down. But what did he catch me in? The Kimura, man. Fabio Hollanda, he caught me in the Kimura. So it was good, though. But that's, you kind of put it to the line. And, loyalty, you go for your friends, right? You want to try to get the guys back and try to, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Avenge a loss, I guess, but it didn't work out that well for me. That's the way it goes.
That's cool, though. I've always found that there's, in your style, even in your teaching, I find that there's always been that little extra push of aggression isn't the word, because, I mean, I know you like to use high energy, and, even starting off a lot of warm-ups, you do guard pass drill and just guard pass, what is it? You guys used to sing something like be aggressive, but but you also have this like cool side of the what if, whereas like, think of your teammate once in a while as someone you gotta overcome that. You gotta get past that guard and into side control. And I like that about your teaching too. Sometimes it's like sometimes you need to be a little edgy. Sometimes just show them just a little bit here and there.
No, definitely.
If you're never doing that, then you're not really going to progress, right? So, and I even sometimes, just being the type of person I am, have a hard time getting there. But even in your classes, sometimes I've been able to get there better because it's just been you going, "Come on, man, you got to get in there, you got to do it."
Yeah,
and that's what I love about the sport. And speaking of that, I wanted to talk a little bit about like, I can only like have so many theories in my head about why I think jiu-jitsu is the best martial art.
Yeah.
I come from a karate background, but there's so many. Everyone can agree there's so many types of karate, and karate got definitely like bastardized as of like the 70s and on, or this like so it's like. Well, as soon as I started training jiu-jitsu, the big thing I noticed was how definitive it was. What do you think is one of the reasons why like jiu-jitsu is such a?
Oh man, it's a sport where you spar every class.
Yeah, you have to
That's
prove
a big
yourself.
thing. I've met karate guys and guys from different martial arts, and they don't spar every class. With wrestling, jiu-jitsu wrestlers, that's if you get a wrestler, they always give up their back. Jiu-jitsu guys always take their back. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But they have such a good base. But they're used to being on the mat. And it's just it's the sparring every time. That's why I always do like at least in my class, at least a half an hour sparring. You know what I mean? If we're doing an hour class, then I'm going to do, short warm up, guard pass, technique, and then sparring, right? You have to spar. And in Brazil, they spar a lot more than they spar here, right?
Yeah.
They do their drills and stuff, but they do a lot more sparring in Brazil than here. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Between Canada and Brazil when it comes to jiu-jitsu. But, as the sport itself, like it's something that, you've seen my kids, I have my kids in jiu-jitsu, and it's something that you want them to get into because, if anything ever does happen later in life, people talk about getting in fights and stuff like that,
conflict,
school
bullying,
all that kind of stuff. And, for me, I never had that issue, right? I'm a big guy. I didn't have to learn how to fight. But I'll tell you something, since I've done jiu-jitsu, and remember, it's been like 98, I haven't gotten a fight.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a fight. That's crazy. I used to get fights all the time. I was like that punk. You know what I mean? Like I'd go to the bar and I was either, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One or the other.
Fired up or one or the other.
I was either, and, that would happen. And guys that'll watch this that knew me back when I was younger, that was the way it went, right? You know what I mean? But now, I haven't been in a fight since I started doing jiu-jitsu. That's weird. That's weird. But anyways, it's the way it goes.
I mean, you don't realize how much mental it really is after once you start getting into it. And the cool thing is that you're constantly, I mean, I'm constantly humbled.
Yeah.
Especially in, I've only been training now for about 3 years, and still it's just like, and I mean, I kind of believe now, talking to anybody, even talking to a guy like yourself, you're going to always be humbled.
Oh,
but I feel like,
absolutely.
especially in the beginning, you're getting that extra little humble pummel.
But that's what I loved.
Yeah.
I love that because I was learning.
Yes.
I remember like I trained with Claude and he beat the shit out of me, man. And I go train with other guys and they couldn't do anything to me.
Right.
Because I was used to defending. I was,
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's just the way it goes, right? Like you have to, and you have that ego. If you have an ego, it's going to get beat out of you, right? And it'll get beat out of you by a smaller guy.
Which is
that's what happened with me,
or
Joey.
a girl.
Yeah, or a girl.
girl.
Yeah, I never thought about that. You're true, a girl. Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
true, man.
You're right.
I'm the first person to not afraid to admit that I've been submitted and tapped many times by some seriously talented women, especially on Team Novo Union, man. Because there are some good ones, man.
Yeah, no, there's some good women for sure. You know what I mean? Especially if a lot of women that have like judo backgrounds and it really makes them tough because they're not playing around. They'll take the guy down, and they're so used to being top players that they just crush you. You can't get off, right? So,
and some of the ladies, like some of them have like a Muay Thai and they've got a cardio background that you're like, what?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're running laps around you. And you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
That stuff definitely it's the constant humbling, I think, which is I find with some of these like other types of martial art, like in my experience, that there can start to be this sort of pedestal, right? And you start holding this person so high up. But you've never actually seen them do anything. Whereas one of my favorite things, and I wanted to talk about this, and what I love so much about yourself, guys like Daniel, guys like Alex, and even just last weekend I was rolling with Alex.
Yeah.
And you guys, not only do you get in there and teach, get in there and warm up, you get in there and spar. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's nothing more like humbling and more like just eye-opening is watching your coach spar.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's exactly what he should be doing in anything. You know what I mean? Like, you look at a lot of sports, a lot of ex-baseball players turn coaches, a lot of, So I love that about jiu-jitsu and about the sport is what I've noticed is even when I was training out in like I was traveling and doing some training in the States and stuff, every coach that would open the doors to me and have me in, I pay the mat fee, I ended up rolling with them.
Yeah.
He'd kick the shit out of me, but man, like, or even
that's jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've went to St. Martin, I've trained in St. Martin, I've went to, Hawaii, I trained in Hawaii, different places with Shiruto and stuff on my honeymoon, you know what I mean? I went and trained, Halsons and stuff like that in Hawaii. And wherever you go, there's always jiu-jitsu. And that's the good thing, I'm going to Croatia like in the summer, right? And I'm looking forward to that. And, I'm not probably going to do any jiu-jitsu, but you never know.
But you could.
If there's a place there, I could, and it's
you could,
fine, and people accept you. Right, like I was at Buckley's. I teach, like I told you, I teach at Buckley's, and there was a guy who just came from Colorado. Brown belt guy, really good. And it's good. It's good to train with different people. For myself, like as I was getting older, I was bringing Daniel with me too, and we started teaching together at combat. And he was always a younger guy, so you always get those young guys. I couldn't handle him anymore. My body's sore. I'm beat up, you know what I mean? Had knee surgeries, my shoulders and stuff, right? I'm getting back into the swing now.
I didn't know you had knee surgery.
Oh yeah, I had double knee surgery. Yeah,
this guy, wow.
Okay. Double knee surgery. So I'm, taking it, now I'm starting to get a little bit back in, but more, Daniel was really, you could see him coming up, and now, like, look at him now, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, without him when we opened up Novo Union Mississauga, without him, like, it wouldn't have worked, man. It wouldn't have worked because physically I wouldn't be able to take it, and business-wise, I don't, he's a business guy, right?
He is,
so he knows the deal.
There's the yin to the yang.
He's helped me through a lot. So he's a good guy, man.
I want to talk about that a bit actually because because that's where I trained for 2 years. It was my jiu-jitsu home. Yeah. You guys were kind enough to let me in and then make fun of me when there was a giant billboard outside with my face on it.
I remember that. That was funny.
I did a bank ad and all of a sudden it's
RBC or whatever it was. Yeah,
what was it? How did that come about? How did you guys start? Did you guys are buddies or your friends?
Yeah. So we trained at Carmo. Like when Wagner came from Montreal, I met him there. So I think I was a purple belt and he started as a white belt, right? And he was getting good. And I remember I started a little older. I started at 29 years old, right? When I started jiu-jitsu. And, with him, he was a younger guy and I used to beat the shit out of him. I'd say, you know what, I'm going to beat the shit out of you because when I get old, you're going to come back. And now I'm paying for it. You know what I mean? Now he just takes it easy. I mean, I think he feels bad for me, but you know what I mean? He just takes it easy on me now. But yeah, you know, but back then I used to go hard on him, right? And, you know, we always stayed in touch. And then, you know, I started teaching at Combat and I work at the same time. So I brought him in to help teach, well, you know what I mean, when I'm working nights and stuff like that, right? And yeah, and then it just ended up that we, you know, he said, let's just open our own place, and away we went, right? And for me, like I said, I wouldn't have known how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and he knew how to do all that.
The entrepreneurship was a little more on Daniel's side, I guess. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. He knew, you know, I knew to teach a class and stuff, and I knew, you know, we had a lot of our students that came with us and stuff like that too. So we didn't really have to, you know, we built them up, and you know, I learned that from Claude too. He's like, listen, you know, you don't ever hold anything back from your students. Always teach them, because those students that you teach and get better can be better training partners for you.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to be better,
of course,
better training partners. Right. So you always build it up. And that's what we did. We built it up. And now we know we made our first 2 black belts. Right. Me and Daniel made our black belts with Tim and Chris.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? So that was our first 2. And, you know, I've been teaching since, teaching, you know, black belts since 2008. So, and I haven't made a black belt. So that, you know what I mean? We just made them now.
To me, it says a lot about the art, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a while.
It says you guys don't fuck around.
No, one thing is I won't give it out like for political reasons or for business stuff. I don't do that. It's just like you earn it, you got it. That's the way it goes, right? So
as it should be, right?
Yeah.
Like there shouldn't be, you know, I mean, I guess if you're, people always talk about the BJ Penn story, but I mean, he was the guy that was training like three times a day, 7-8 days a week. 8 doesn't exist. He was a guy that was kind of rushing it, right? Like he was
beating guys.
That's
though.
what I mean. Like he was pushing.
I used to watch stuff from him back then, and back then it was on VHS, and he used to. You know, he was beating black belts, and you know when he was a blue belt.
Yeah, right? I shouldn't say rush. I didn't mean rush it as in a.
Yeah, no, he was just a natural guy that just
good.
could just you know really flow fast, right?
That story always gets misconstrued when I talk to people about belting and jiu-jitsu. Like I'll talk to karate guys, and they're like, I'm like, oh, I just I got my blue belt, and they're like, man, you've been training for like 3 years, 2 years under no. I'm like, yeah. That's how long it takes. And they're like, well, what's the next one? I'm like, well, you got to get stripes. You get striped into 4 and then purple. Yeah. And they're like, well, then what's after purple? I'm like, well, then you get brown. And they're like, well, how long? I'm like, well, it's not uncommon for a black belt to take over 10 years, up to 10 years.
Yeah, it took me 10 years, I think. 10 years, and that was competing.
I
competed a lot, right? So when I was younger, before I got hurt, I was competing a lot. I was going to New York. I was going everywhere. Every tournament I was trying to hit.
Well, I think, I think that's the wonderful thing about it is just you guys don't fuck around. You're like, no, you'll get it when you deserve it, and you know. And I think there's also something wonderful about why you shouldn't expect anything. Just go in, get on the mats, train, listen, pay attention, ask questions, and just enjoy it. Like,
no, it's jiu-jitsu's, you know, it's something you have friends for life, and you know, you learn obviously the techniques, but it's just the style, you know, and the confidence too. Like you don't worry about stuff. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to worry about this or I don't know. For me, I don't worry about stuff. It's just like I do jiu-jitsu. I love it. One thing is always, you know, when I'm training with a guy, you know, whether he's a purple belt or a white belt, I say, if you can tap me, let's go. And why I got that from Wagner. So Wagner's always like that. He's like, if you can tap me, then tap me. Go. Like, don't go easy on me. Don't, you know what I mean? If you think you have me in an arm bar, don't not crank it. Just not crank it, but don't put it on. Just go. Do it. And you know what I mean? That was part of it, right? So you learn things as you go. Learn things from Leo, you know, when he would come down here, Wendell.
Leo Santos.
Leo
Scott's
Santos,
referring to.
Yeah, Leo Santos.
Just
he won the UFC Ultimate Fighter in Brazil.
Right, Brazil, that's right.
So, you know,
that seminar was great, by the way, and I got to snap some pics for that one.
Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah, no, he's always done well, you know what I mean? So his jiu-jitsu was always really good. You know, he's off the hook, right? So, and in
his
Canada,
teaching was great too, man. Yeah. Like that seminar was really cool. He had some stellar ideas and modifications, and it was super cool, man. Yeah,
it's little things you learn from them. Like you say, okay, you know, how did you get so good at doing, you know, your butterfly guard pull where he pulls into butterfly basically and sweeps people in practice.
You know, he goes, that's what I hear all the time. Mat time.
Practice.
Alex always says to me, man, it's mat time. He's like, it's just time. He's like, Ian, get here as much as you can. Be here, and it's just honest to God truth. It's like, you know, you got to put the time in, and you got to put lots of time in.
Yeah, no, that's the way it goes. You know, he's like, I try it with the white belt, I try it with the blue belt, a purple belt, brown belt, and then I'm doing it with black belts, and then he's doing it against world class guys and beating them with it, right? So it's just part of stuff you add on. Mark Bocek told me, I said, oh, you know, what do you think I need to work on in my game? You know, as a purple belt, and he goes, everything. And I go, well, what do you mean? Like, is there something specific? He goes, everything. Yeah, just everything. Don't like try to work the one thing and then forget about everything else, because, you know, you could go someone with a totally different style and switch it up. You need to know. So, and, you know, I remember that stuff too, right?
So that's the
guys that paved the way.
The Scott Lewis piece of advice today, everything.
Everything. Stick to the basics. Nice. That's my piece of advice. Always stick to the basics, man.
Nice. Well, I'm going to do a little, I do a segment called The Shit I'm Into.
All right.
And it's just to kind of wrap up our little episode here. Yeah. But today I picked the Jiu-Jitsu University. I'm holding this up for the viewers watching and people listening. I got this book when I was actually post appendicitis surgery, and I was dying to get on the mats, but I couldn't because I was on a few week, I was thinking it was an 8 week, but I only lasted 5 weeks and I was back on the mats, and then I actually ended up competing in the in-house with you guys.
Yeah.
But I got this book under recommendation. Actually, Daniel had recommended, Daniel Satsos, who was also used to teach side by side with Scott here. Salo Ribeiro, Jiu-Jitsu University. I like to open up once in a while, take a look at some of the moves in it. And so, Scott, what shit are you into right now?
Shit I'm into, man. Dieting right now, you know.
Nice.
I've always went up and down in weight,
you
know, because I diet for a while and then I'd stop dieting. You know, I go to the gym, I get injured, you know, I'm sore, whatever, right? Different things happen in life where you stop doing exercise or whatever, right? Even though I was teaching, sometimes I wouldn't spar.
Right.
You know, now I started keto diet again, and I'm doing that. And I feel better. I'm no sugar. That's a big thing.
Huge.
I used to drink
no sugar is a life changer. I'll say that right now. I'll state that for the fucking record. No sugar is a life changer.
It is. And it's weird. You know, I don't realize it, but, you know, like no sugar at all. I don't eat any sugar at all. I used to drink Diet Coke. I don't drink Diet Coke anymore.
Aspartame's a killer.
You know, I never thought about it, right? It's like, oh, well, you know, it doesn't have sugar in it, but, you know, you get addicted to it, right?
Absolutely.
And I have an addictive personality. So that's not the best for me. So, I've quit that. And that's what I'm concentrating on. Jiu-jitsu right now, going away, and because I'm going away to Croatia, so I'm looking forward to that. And then, keto diet. I'm cooking.
Awesome,
I've turned into like an old man.
Isn't it great?
I'm cooking all the time.
It's the passion about cooking the food, man.
You got to see, I reverse sear a steak, and it's the best.
Nice.
It's a reverse sear. And Google it. It's sick. Awesome. I'm telling you, like, I've never had a better steak than a reverse sear steak. It's sick, man. It's really good.
Well, Scott, I can't thank you enough. You're teaching at Buckley Jiu-Jitsu now in Oakville, Ontario, right?
Yep.
And it was unfortunate, but the doors were shuttered and not had nothing to do with Scott and Daniels, but unfortunately our Mississauga location had closed down. Bummer about that. But the good thing is everyone found a home with you, or they found a home with Daniel over at Extreme Couture.
Absolutely,
with Wagner.
yeah.
So everyone's back on the mats. Everyone's training. It's a bummer that we're all, maybe one day, maybe you guys will do it again. Maybe you'll open another gym.
Maybe, I don't know. Probably not me, maybe Daniel,
Right.
but you know what I mean? Not me, but yeah.
But Scott, I can't thank you enough for being on the show, dude. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
In Blackwood, talk, smile.